Guys, I am so excited to have you with us this week. Our guest is absolutely tremendous. But before I introduce you to him today, I want to thank just everybody who watches or listens on YouTube. Like, it cracks me up that people do podcasts on YouTube, although we throw the videos out there. And YouTube sent me a little thing today and says, "Hey, here's all your audience and how many minutes and days and people and subscribers and all that type stuff." And I've got somebody else that uploads the videos and does all that on YouTube, so I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I do see the comments when people comment over there, but anyway, it brightened my morning this morning to see, how much people are paying attention on the YouTube side of things, where I'm more focused on Apple Podcasts and the Apple Podcast reviews and all that type thing. So, anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing this with your buddies, with your church, with whoever you think might benefit from the Journey of a Christian Dad podcast. And this week, man, have we got a special guest. So I've known Chris for years and years and years. So I've gotten to know him especially, but I've even got to meet his wife and some of his children. You'll see why I say some here in a minute. So I got to meet Chris when he was kind of an up and comer, and now he's the executive vice president of Maxwell Leadership. So the way I describe that is he's like third from the top or second from the top or something, which could be an exaggeration, and Chris can correct me later. He's got a great new book coming out called From Drift to Drive, and he spearheads the global expansion of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team inside this book and kind of shares his wisdom in there. So, this is a book to help high achievers kind of break the chains of complacency. So, I saw the subtitle. I'm like, dude, that's for me. Like, that is absolutely for me. And then I jumped on his website, took the assessment, and I'm like, yeah, it's exactly where I knew I would land. Like, it is exactly right there. So I feel like this one can go terribly wrong for me and turn into a coaching session instead of a
Right.
typical podcast. I somewhat feel safe having Chris Chris Robinson on with us today because we know each other, and I know he's a regular dude that actually, does the same thing we all do, put our pants on one leg at a time.
That's correct.
He's not perfect 100% of the time, but anyway, his book's got John Maxwell that does the intro, and Eric Thomas puts a little plug in there. ET is phenomenal. So you hang out, you run with the best. You've always had a great group of people around you, and you're always looking to level up. And so anyway, I'll quit the intro and then just say, Chris, I'm so fired up and excited to have you with us. You're one of the best public speakers I've ever seen in my life,
Wow.
and one of the most energetic people I've ever met in my life, and just overall fun. If you're not watching on YouTube, you should see this guy smile right now. It's unbelievable. So, Chris, welcome.
Oh, hey, well, Dan, thank you so much for having me. It's great to spend some time with you. I know it's been a little bit of while since we've been together, since I left St. Louis 5 years ago for better weather and, just and just making this choice to come down here. But I tell you, man, it's always great to be with you. I love how you're always learning, always growing, always looking to add value to people and being around great people. And that's one thing that I know about you is that you're highly intentional about being around great people, which again, that's what draws great people to you is that type of intentionality and that type of people that you bring around you. So I'm excited to be here today to talk with your listeners and share some of my ups, my downs, whatever it is you want to go. I'm here to follow your lead and add value to people today.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's just jump into your family real quick. I alluded to not
Yeah,
knowing all of your kids.
yeah.
Married, six kids. You got
Six kids.
triplets, a single, and some twins, or one
Yeah, that's
one set of
correct.
twins, not some
Yeah,
twins, one set of twins.
that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Married, one woman, six kids, three pregnancies. Okay, so we had the first question I always get is, well, is it one woman? That's, oh, yep, it's one. Six kids, yep, three pregnancies. We're just we're highly efficient. We're a highly efficient family, and so we got it done. But it's an incredible journey. Going with triplets were first. So they're 16 years old now. The single was the second child to come out, or the fourth, but the second pregnancy. And then twins. um, which came out last. And so it was a surprise on all three pregnancies. You know, the first three, we tried for 3.5 years and were told we couldn't have children. And then we did some fertility treatments and, great, we had triplets. And then we thought, okay, that's it, that's done. We can't have children. That was the story. That was what we were told all these years. And then we had David, and then we have twins, and those three were natural. And so, I mean, it's a gift for sure. Each and every single one of them have a unique gift and how they, just bring light into, the situation of our family and how we just navigate together. So it's definitely hard work. That's for sure. Trying to navigate all the schedules and all the things that they do, and then also navigating the different phases of where they're at. You know, the triplets been in their teen years, the 12-year-old, they're getting ready to go into teen years, the 9-year-olds, and trying to navigate all the different segments of life. And it's really fun. It's really hard, but truly a joy to see, as they grow and develop.
So, side note, I didn't realize we had the length of time between our first kids, and so we had a bit of challenges. Also, we had a few miscarriages. So, if you're listening to this, and if there's somebody you know, or if maybe it's you, check out Nay Pro Technology or the Creighton model. It's actually all natural stuff. God designed our bodies to work, and this was a Christian group of doctors that said, hey, let's figure out
Right,
what we're missing as opposed to just saying that people can't have kids. Like
right,
let's so anyway, we went through an all natural thing ourselves, and the doctor identified something that the like normal scientific doctors that went to school that only followed the script that did a bunch of guesswork and stuff like that. So anyway, total side note, but Napro Technology, Creighton model, Creighton. Anyway, so there's that. Got that out of the way. So you were talking about kids and kind of guiding them and leading them through life challenges. Before we started on the show, you're like, I was gripping my uh seat belt as
right,
my
yeah,
kid's driving.
right.
And you're like, what do you want to do with your life? And he comes up with, I think I want to be a helicopter pilot.
Right. And I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, there's levels to things, Dan, and we were just trying to pass this driver's license test, and the thought that he's thinking about flying a helicopter, it had me a little nervous. Now, I did the right thing in the moment. I didn't say anything. I didn't, jump and go, how in the world are you going to do that? Now, that's the worst things that we could say as a parent, or as an individual, period, is to question somebody's thought, dream, or vision with the how in the world could you? And so I did the right thing. I was able to tame my tongue, and I began to just become inquisitive. Well, do you know anything about becoming a pilot? And he says, well, yeah. I said, well, what was that path look like? And, he apparently had been doing some research, because he knew a path in order to get there. And so what I did the next step, and I think I did the right next thing because I've done it wrong in the past, is the next day I had told him, I had asked him, hey, would you mind if I ordered you some books on becoming a pilot? And I had went and looked up some books for him, and he said, well, yeah, I'd be open to that. And so I ordered him the books, and I got the books to him. I haven't asked him about it at all, because he's 16. They got to go at their own
Hmm.
pace. And in the past, what I would do with them is I would give them something that I'm just on them. Hey, you need to read this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And so, all of them don't respond the same. Some of them, will do it, and they will read what I ask them to read, and they'll go and do it. Then others, they're like, nope, I don't want to do that, and they'll wait to the last minute to be badgered to do it. And so, just trying to find that pace with each one of them because they all have their own pace and their own rhythm of how they want to learn and how they want to grow. And so, it's an experiment that we're doing here and just trying to figure out how do we set them up to give them the best chance to succeed in life, to reach their God-given potential. So day by day, we're trying something new.
Yeah, you mentioned each of your children being different, and
Yeah,
you gotta kind of tune into where they're at, and age and personality and
yeah,
background and all those
yeah,
things.
Yeah.
I coach a couple softball teams, and my wife was in the stands, and this boisterous lady with a child on the team says, "Man, that coach, he doesn't treat them the same at all. Like he
Right.
is absolutely he doesn't treat each one of them the same." And my wife goes, "Oh, okay, got it. Give him this feedback. Like I'm hearing this."
Right.
And he never yells at them like they're in the box and they're not swinging at strikes. Like he needs to like just get on them. And so she comes home and she's like, "Hey, you're not treating them all the same." And at least that's what this lady says. And you know, and she's and then you don't yell at them. And I said, Absolutely, she is so right. I'm excited."
Right.
And she's like, "What's that about?" I'm like, "Well, they're all different. Like
Right.
they all reacted differently. They all learn differently. They all like each one of they all got talents in different ways. And so no, I absolutely don't treat them the same. Like each
Right.
one of them has their own playbook."
That's right.
And
That's
she's
awesome.
like, "Oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
all right. I don't got to listen to this head noise lady that, she's wrong on that one."
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, "And about the yelling thing."
Right.
She says, "Yeah, what about that?" I'm like, "Who wants to be in the batter's box?"
Getting yelled at.
You already know everybody's looking
Right.
at you. Like the
Right.
last thing in the world you need is more noise in your head. Like the less
Right.
noise, the better. Like see the
Right.
ball, hit the ball.
Right.
In the batting cage, in practice, we can do the other stuff, but when you
Right.
step into the box, you want front of the box, back of the box,
Yeah.
middle, where you want to stand, and then go grip it and rip it.
That's right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we were just my son, he's been in Cooperstown, New York for the past 2 weeks playing baseball. And the first week I got to go and watch, and then I switched off with my wife and she came and watched the second week.
Oh,
But
cool.
the first week that I'm there, the intensity is high. I mean, this is like the Disneyland of baseball for little league baseball players. And, they're all 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, and the stakes are high. I mean, there's 80 teams there. They're all staying in the bunks together with their team. And, this is just 7 days of baseball, just every single day. I mean, even they're playing wiffle ball all over the park. I mean, it's just a great place. And, the intensity of the parents during these games. And I was laughing. It was just humorous to me because, much like yourself, I'm not going to be one out there yelling at kids or anything of that nature. And, you would hear the parents just yelling, come on, you can do this. And then, I mean, they're screaming at the top of their lungs, and then they would yell, and remember, have fun. You know? Like, well, how fun is it? How fun is it? Getting screamed at and just have fun. I didn't see that work any times, but that's that's what we do.
I had I had both my daughters. I took them to hitting lessons for the first time in their life. I've always worked with them and had some success.
Yeah.
And the one of the daughters goes and long story short, 23 minutes into the 30-minute hitting session, the batting coach goes, "We're done here. I can't deal with this attitude anymore." Grabs
Oh,
the softballs and walks off.
oh my.
On the way out, he says, "You saw, right?" And I said, "Let me get this conversation started correctly. I'm 100% in your corner." My opinion of you as a hitting coach went up a lot. Like that was
Right.
the exact right move to do. Thank you. I go, if you're offering to give more hitting lessons, I'll take some personally.
Right.
We
Wow.
finished that up and I said, "Hey man, I'll see you tomorrow night." And his eyes get real wide, like, "What are we gonna possibly do tomorrow night?" And I was
Right.
like, "Well, I've got a different daughter who's entirely different." And he looks at me like, "Okay, how is she different?" I go, "We're gonna have fun tomorrow night."
Right.
And we finished that one up, and he says, the very final thing he says was, "I don't like I've told you a few things already, but I don't know how to explain this." And he's looking at me and my daughter. He says, you listen better than anybody's ever listened."
Hmm.
And then you think about what I've said and you run through how you're going to do it. And then you like do it.
Right.
And then you get the results immediately faster than anybody I've ever taught.
Wow.
And he goes, I've been doing this since 2006 so that you have a frame of reference of how many people that I've taught. He goes, you're not like up there. You're the number one. I'm like, so we went from one night of complete disaster to I've got like tears in my eyes of like joy and,
Right. Right.
wonderful. And so the first daughter, she goes to her game and her second at bat, she comes over to the screen where I'm standing and she says, hey, Dad, what did that hitting coach, what was just one thing he told me to do? I can't remember anything.
Money burnt.
So I give her one thing, and I'm thinking to myself, this was the worst time in the world for her to come over here and ask me this question. She's stepping into the box with a whole bunch of noise in her head. The head coach of her team's like, hey, she seemed a little, off her game in the batter's box on that
Right.
at bat. What was going on? She was thinking. She
Thinking,
was
right.
thinking. I'm like, the good news is like she's open to hitting coach now. Like that
Right.
just
Wow.
that transition just happened. She just had her breakthrough moment.
Right.
She got
Oh,
walked on that at bat, thankfully, but
right. Yeah. Yeah, they all respond differently. I know that my kids, the triplets, they got into cross country at a very early age, simply because they didn't want to play golf. I had them going to first tee and I had them in golf lessons you know, and then they come home one day and this was, I think, in third grade or so. And they said, hey, Dad, we don't want to do golf anymore. They said, we want to do cross country. I said, well, where in the world did you come up with cross country? They're like, well, they got a team at school and we're in the third grade. We can run cross country. And I said, well, guys, I don't know anything about cross country. We'll just keep playing golf and everything will be all right. And they said, no, we don't. We hate golf. We want to do cross country. I mean, they started chant. This was the first time they united as a unit. And they began to chant cross country, cross country. And so I said, well, great. All right, if that's what you want to do, we'll do cross country. And so they go to cross country training the next day, and they come home and they said, we don't like cross country. Because they had no idea what it was. And I said, well, hey, you guys don't want to play golf. You're doing cross country. And so I said, so now every single day we're going to run. And they said, well, no, practice is only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I said, no, not in this house. In this house, we practice every day that ends in day. You're going to run because you want to do cross country. And so each day I would sit out in the driveway with the timer and they would be running. And, it was interesting. They developed the habit, two of the three, because just like you, of course, they all respond differently. But up until the seventh grade, they developed the habit of running daily. And now I don't have to, tell them to do anything. Like they're training, they've got the rhythm, they got the discipline. Now, the third one, just like yourself, I had to apologize to the coach after seventh grade and said, hey, look, I've got one that doesn't want to be there, and I apologize. That just worked for our schedule for him to be here with them. And he was like, well, thank you. He was like, because he doesn't want to be here. And so that's when I let him off the hook. But hey, sometimes just the schedule works. But it's really interesting to see now, my daughter, if she's on pace, her goal since the seventh grade is she says, hey, I want to run for a Division I school. And she's said that since seventh grade. She's written letters to Division I players when she was in seventh, eighth grade
Mm.
say, hey, what does it take in order for me to make it to that level? And her level of dedication to her craft and track and cross country is amazing. And just to see how she works at it is just neat. But it goes back to that core of what was developed with her when she was young. Now, the middle one, he's got the ability, he doesn't have the work ethic. He's got the ability and not the work ethic. And so, and again, it's okay. It's just that's not what he ultimately wants to do. And so, and then the other one, no interest at all in it. And so, we do these things as parents, with our very best efforts, but we also need to pay attention to when they're not receptive or or they're deviating from it. What can we do to fuel whatever they're passionate about or whatever they are skilled at? And so I'm always trying to find and develop whatever area that they want to grow. Like David, the single, he loves baseball. I mean, this kid, ever since he was, I don't know, as soon as he could pick up a ball, he's just always picked up a ball. You couldn't, he'll go knock on a neighbor's door if I'm not home to just throw a ball. He's just always wanted to do it. So with him, of course, he's in private coaching for swinging. He's in, a travel team. He's in, physical training, to develop. And he loves it and he accepts it. He reads on baseball, he reads on mental attitude. But those are the things that we're doing daily to develop him. Same thing with the younger ones. But again, just trying to foster where do they want to grow and how do I pour fuel on that? So, yeah.
What would you say there's a kid, and I see this a lot, like super introverted kids,
Hmm.
and maybe they can play a bit, whatever the sport is.
Hmm.
Maybe they've got potential, but can't actually currently play. But like you can see it in them a little bit,
Right.
um, where it's not the wrong place for them to be.
Right.
They're not falling all over themselves. Like
Yeah.
they can be around whatever this activity is. Lately, I've been talking to the parents like, hey, I think your kid would have a little bit more confidence if they had like a private coach or if there was somebody working with them so that they could see some success away from all these other kids.
Right. Yep.
And then when they come back to the group and they notice, hey, my skill level, like I feel like I
Right.
belong, like and just get them some confidence.
Right.
Um, so I've been trying to work with a few that way lately. What do you think about those kids that kind of aren't really fitting in? Um, Partly because of that introverted personality, but also maybe because they're not the superstar on the team.
Right. Yeah, correct. Correct. I mean, you're absolutely right. And them getting additional help. And ultimately, at the end of the day, because again, I invest a lot of money in my kids and their development with private coaching and things, because I just believe in that. I believe that in
Yeah.
order to grow in any area, you need three things. You need knowledge. So it means that they need to be reading something, listening to something. You need experience. Okay, so they need to be doing it as well too, but then they need coaching or mentoring. And so no matter what my kids do, I'm always trying to integrate those three things. And with the introverted kid, but at the end of the day, I know that I'm pouring thousands of dollars into these kids for these specific sports. Now, the chances of them going to a pro level, very, very thin. Okay. And most of us who are parents, who see these kids out here, we're going and we're pouring all these thousands of dollars in there. And some of us are doing it with the hope of, oh, well, maybe they'll become pro. I have zero expectations of my kids becoming professional athletes, but what I'm trying to get them to develop is the disciplines, the skill set, and the principles that comes from sports that can translate into any area of their life. Okay. And so that's the goal for me is not, am I going to produce a professional athlete? Would that be awesome? Would that absolutely be fulfilling and to see that come to fruition? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I know there's a 99% chance, okay, that these kids aren't going to be professional athletes. And so I'm just looking for the transfer of the principles and the transfer of the discipline and a desire because if they can learn it in a sport, they can learn it in business. If they can learn it in a sport, they can learn it in their school work. If they learn it in a sport, they can learn it in, their ministry. But it's the discipline, it's the teamwork. And so really those are the things I'm looking for, whether they're introverted or extroverted, is hey, how do I help this kid get the skill set that they need to succeed in life, not really in this sport?
Yeah, we're exactly aligned in that respect. My kids have asked me, "How come you support me? How come you spend some money? How come and they're trying to figure out the finance, how does this make sense?"
Right.
I said, and my way my quick answer to them was in life, I found that I've had a lot of success when I've been around others that are successful and out in front of me, and I can kind of follow their lead. I've also found when I've, like you said, knowledge, when I've read books, when I've watched the videos, when I've poured my own time into it and really gotten deep, I've learned a lot that way. I go, and then there's something about just having a coach
Yeah,
and, you just go, tell me what I need to do and just let's go. And
right.
I go, I've had extreme success in areas where I've had a coach. And
Yeah,
I go, so for you, I'd like for you to, get 2 years down the road in 2 months if you can.
right,
Like if it's the knowledge, the experience, and the coaching, why don't we get the best?
right,
And if that's really where if you really want to be a helicopter pilot,
right,
if
right.
you really want to play three sports in high school,
Yeah,
if this is what you want to do, if it's not, well, let's put our
what
time,
do you
energy,
want to
and
do?
effort into something
Something
else.
else. Right.
And
Yep.
then this one thing can be just fun.
Right. That's
And
correct.
we don't have to spend a lot of time uh, with golf.
Right.
We don't even have to keep score.
Right, right. Breaks my heart, Dan. Still to this day, breaks my heart. They don't want to play golf.
So
Maybe one day.
that's another major one for us as parents, especially as dads, when our
Yeah,
kids and moms too. I see it. Moms are like, "Well, that's the sport I played in college,"
right. Yeah. Yeah.
and my
Yeah.
kids grifting over to volleyball and
Right.
dropping soccer or
Right.
softball or basketball or whatever it was, and I can see just a little bit of that, like they're wilting.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. I mean, it's a real thing because again, we have as fathers, I believe, we have this aspiration of our kids, whether it be daughter or son, that if we were athletes and we played a sport, like we want them to go further than we did, and we want to see them excel in it. I mean, because there's for me, I love watching, and I didn't push any of the older three to play baseball or anything because that was my sport, and so the last thing I wanted to do was do this. I never have got involved in coaching at all either, just because I didn't want to push. Now, off the field, I definitely would help them, train and things of that nature with my son with baseball. We're on the field, he's taking, 500 plus balls on a weekend, just getting them reps in where he's not getting the reps in practice. But so I'll do that, but I never got into the actual coaching on the field. And but as fathers, we want to see those kids do what we did or do better than what we did. And so I've had to fight the urge to, push them into the sports that I wanted to. But it's one of those things I think that we want to see them go a certain way, but we have to come to the grips with they're just not gonna go the way that we think that they're gonna go. Have seen that from a very long time ago, from a very early age of like, well, that's just not gonna be the way that I want it to be. And that's hard to deal with. That's hard to deal with as parents to go, well, gosh, they've got ability this way, they can do this, but they want nothing to do with it. And so, still to this day, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to grow on how to navigate those different pockets of them growing and from teenagers to adults and so on.
Yeah, so I like earlier when we were talking and like I resisted the urge to tell them it's a bad idea. Instead being curious, asking a good question, and kind of seeking to understand is what I heard.
Right,
Tell
yeah,
me more about that.
right.
Oh wow, you have put some thought process into this. Like, okay,
Right,
maybe there
yeah.
is something here.
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I know when my kids throw me a curveball like that too, I think, gosh, how in the heck am I going to help you get there? I don't know anything about that.
Right. But that's the beautiful thing, Dan, is that we don't have to know if we know the process. And the process is knowledge, experience, and coaching. And so it doesn't matter what we do if we follow a certain model of process, we can help them grow in however they want to grow. Doesn't matter. Process works for everything.
So it works. It sounds like the same in your world.
Yeah.
Thing happens. Oh
Yep.
my gosh. Let me attack that.
Right. That's correct.
Wait, I shouldn't do that.
Right, right.
All right, we can work with this. All right, what do we do?
Right.
Figure it out, learn, like,
Right.
so the same things that we learn on the business side, we apply at
That's
home,
correct.
and the things that we
That's
learn at
correct.
home, we can shift over to the business
That's
side
correct.
also.
Yeah.
So I love the title of your book, From Drift to Drive.
Yeah.
We'll shift over to a little bit of adult life
Yeah.
and our
Sure.
own selves. So we talked before the show started, kind of, there's some guys that are in that complacency where they don't even recognize that they're just drifting and they're just going to be who they are and not really going to make any changes because they're not in that mode. They're not thinking about how can I be better? What do I need to change? Or what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Anything.
Yeah.
And then there's the guys that have been through that process and have gotten to a spot where things are good. Things are cool. I'm
Yeah.
all right. Family's good.
Right.
I'm just going to be here.
Right.
And then there's guys that are looking to advance, get better in certain areas and aspects. So I think from drift to drive, it's kind of the guys that do want to get better, but also fall into a state of I'm good. I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a pretty dangerous spot to be.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it really is. And so when we talk about complacency, it's one of those things where that word I think is an apathetic word. When you think about complacency, most of us shake it off of, I'm not really complacent. That's not me. We think of complacency as laziness or apathy, but it couldn't be further from that. The original word complacency, the root word, the real true definition or meaning of it was careless security. If you go back to the origin of the word, it's careless security. And so in the book, what I do is I redefine the word complacency. And I think that all of us have it. If we look at all of the areas of our life, we all have an area of complacency. Now, the way that I define complacency in the book is I call it a secret place of satisfactory success. A secret place of satisfactory success. Now, we all have that. We all have that where things are, oh, we're good at something. We've done good at something, but yet we haven't done anything to improve it in quite some time. And so what we have to realize is that our good is good, but the gap between our good and our potential is great. And so what most of us do is we work really hard to get to proficiency. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, we will work really hard to get to 70, 80%, and we'll go, okay, that's good. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. Now, to go from 80% to 100%, that requires some work. I mean, that requires you just really fine tuning and developing, and most people are just unwilling to do that. And so, whether that is, in your marriage, in your relationships with your kids, in your career. We all have areas of complacency or secret places of satisfactory success where we're just not giving the effort like we did when we first started to develop the skill. And this really came evident to me. It was funny, like prior to writing this book, I was in a drift. Dan, I was in a drift. Now, you honored me with some incredible words at the beginning of the show here, saying, Chris, you're one of the best communicators that I've ever heard before. Well, let me tell you what happened, Dan. I was took a flight with John Maxwell over to Cambodia. And we went over to Cambodia, and we were going to go speak at an event for 2,500 people. There was only two speakers on the agenda that day, me and John Maxwell. Okay, now from a speaker's perspective, like this is a pinnacle moment, right?
Yeah.
Now, to top it off, Dan, before this event, John Maxwell and I go to meet the president of Cambodia. Now I'm sitting looking around the room going, how in the world did I get here? How in the world am I sitting here with the number one communicator in the world on leadership and the president of a country? And I'm just kind of in awe, and then afterwards, we're walking out of the president's office. John has got his arm around me and we're just laughing like, hey, we just met with the president and things are good. And I go off and I'm getting ready to speak at this event. 2,500 people, good size event. And I get there and I get on stage, and what happens, Dan, is things start to go wrong. And as a speaker, things go wrong. Well, my remote wasn't working for the
Ooh.
presentation. No big deal. I'm a pro. I can handle it. I can get beyond it. I was speaking with an interpreter in a language that I hadn't heard before. And so there's a rhythm that you have to pick up. There's a cadence that you have to pick up because I say a couple sentences, they say a couple sentences. And that was a little choppy, but it's okay. I finally caught rhythm. We were good. And then when the slides finally did come up, Dan, typically when I speak internationally, it has English on one screen and then it has the native language on another screen. Well, in this particular language and country, their language has to go above the whatever language is on there. So my slides look like somebody just took a Scrabble board, threw it up in the air, and said, "Hey, here's your slides." I mean, it was just letters all over, and it was a mess. But again, I navigated through it. I figured it out. I continued to deliver, and then I got off stage, and then there was a line of people, Dan. It was a line of people. "Oh, Chris, you did so awesome. That was great." And so I'm like, okay, I made it through, and we go and sit down at dinner. I'm at dinner with John Maxwell, about five people. I've got my notepad and my pen out because I always, anytime I'm around John, hey, look, he just may drop a gem, and I want to always have questions ready for him. And so I said, John, hey, could you give me some feedback on my presentation today? Well, John goes down the list and he starts off with one, two, three, four,
Oh.
five, six, seven. The list is going on. Now, there's five other people at the table, and then I guess they thought it was a brainstorming session. So they all start telling me all the different things
Oh.
that I could have done better as a speaker. And so I'm going and I'm sweating. And here's what I realized. I went back that night, Dan, and I looked at the entire list. And I can tell you there's nothing on the list that I did not know. There's nothing on the list that I did not do in the past, but because of how many presentations I had delivered, how much I speak on a weekly basis, I didn't prepare for that presentation the way that I did years ago when you would see me speak at a Rotary Club or see me
Hmm.
speak at a Chamber of Commerce. I spent more time then preparing for those than I did to speak internationally with John Maxwell to 2,500 people. Dan, I was in a drift. I was in a secret place of satisfactory success. And I realized that, hey, that was a place of complacency that I was not putting gasoline on my gift. I wasn't putting gasoline on it. I come to a place where, oh, I can do that, no big deal. And we can do it, but and it can be good, but there's still greatness between our potential and our good. And so, that fired me up. And that's what really got me on this cycle of going, oh my goodness, I was in a drift. Because Dan, if anybody randomly called you and said, "Hey Dan, is Chris Robinson a complacent person?" I would have immediately you look, you're going, it's laughable, right? But the truth is, I'm complacent. I've got secret places of satisfactory success. But I want to redefine this word for people because it's not a thing of apathy. It's not a thing of laziness. It's these secret places where we're proficient and we've got space for potential. So I'm very, very excited about this book, Dan, and how it's going to help people in all areas of their life.
Mm. It reminds me, I got to see John speak. You actually had the stage that day as well.
Hmm.
And John was talking about giftedness. And he was
Yeah.
talking about people having maybe a 3 out of 10, and the world likes to focus on, you know, find your weakness and figure out a way to get better at it. And then he says, have you got a 7 or an 8? Most people do. Most people do.
Yeah.
What if you could focus on your 7 or your 8
Yeah.
and turn into a 9 or a 10 and become world class?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so hearing you say that, I'm like, yeah, yeah. He says, if you can get your 3 to a 5, you could be average.
Right.
The world could reward you for average.
Right.
The world rewards you in a whole different way.
Right.
You're world class, and in your area that you're a three, that you could get to a five that you don't really like, and it sucks the energy and life out of
Right.
you. You
Yeah.
could pay somebody to take care of that.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, hearing what you're saying there, it's like, man, what would it be like to live in
Mhm.
a nine or a 10 in a zone that just fires you up? And I can see, with all the speeches you've done, all the places you've been and groups
Yeah.
you've talked to, sounds like you had already spoken to groups where you had an interpreter and had to figure out
Yeah.
the cadence and all that type. So this wasn't new.
No, no. No.
That
But
stage was new, that language was new, but
yeah, but all the other variables could be the same, and there was nothing that I couldn't, figure out. Now, again, to the average ear, it was good, right? To the average ear, what I delivered that day was good. But here's the other thing about intentionality. I wasn't asking the average person for feedback. I was asking the top 1% of the 1%, what did you see? Now, he was able to give me a whole list of things, but the average person couldn't do it. So again, that goes back to you being around the right people and having relationships around you that are further along than you and having mentors and guides that are further along than you because the average, here's the average. But here is the top 1% of the 1% saying, oh no, I saw 10 things. This is a communicator that's been communicating for 50 years. I can't just fly that under the radar past him. The average ear, I can. And so, getting feedback from someone that's at that level, it requires for you to be teachable. It requires for you to be humble. It requires for you to be open for what you don't want to hear. It requires for you not to defend because I could have easily been saying, giving an excuse for all the different things that he was saying. I could have gave a reason why I did or didn't do nothing. And in those scenarios, all you simply say is, "Ooh, thank you, thank you." All right, and then you go and you fix it. And so that really spurred me into really getting back on fire for communicating or developing the skill of communication. So as a result of that, I end up going into repeat my cycle that I teach inside the book. Is one, I got clarity on what I wanted to do. Okay, because oftentimes when we become complacent in an area is that we're not clear on what it is that we're trying to do. So I had to get clear that, and it became very clear to me that I can and want to be a better communicator. So that was really simple. That was the task. I want to be a better communicator. Then what I did is I that's the first step is clarity. The second step is gathering. So clearly, as a speaker over the years, I mean, I've read over 1,000 plus books. Okay. And so one of the first things I do when I'm trying to solve any problem in my life or any passion in my life, I'm going to gather information. Okay. So what I did was I went back and I began to gather, you know, about 10 books on communication. All right. And I gather that information and I'm looking for books, videos, audios, courses, and I'm trying to stack the information on communication. So for me to go back and fine tune this stuff. So I did that. Then what you have to do is you have to take the third step, which is filtering. Filtering is really how you read and how you layer your learning to make sure it all lines up. Because the mistake that most people make is that they're reading a book on communication, they're listening to a podcast on AI, they're watching videos on their Facebook about, another topic, and then they're in a mastermind group about another topic. But look, here's a real simple thing. If you want to move fast, line all of those things up. Everything that you read, listen to, having conversations about, if they're lined up and they're filtered properly, then now your proficiency just picks up significantly. And so the next step after that is guidance. Okay. So what I did for that is, we all need guides in order to get to where we want to go. So yes, John Maxwell was mentoring me, gave me feedback. And so, but then I had to go out and I had to get some more help. So I went back to Roddy Galbraith, who is my speaking coach for years, who's always given me feedback. And I began sending him more videos of me speaking, saying, hey, give me feedback. And then I also started to work with the comedian Michael Jr.
Oh,
Michael
he's
Jr. Yeah,
awesome.
he is. He is. And so Michael Jr. was watching video with me, giving me feedback, helping me on timing, communication, just internally, you know, how am I feeling when I walk on stage? Why do I feel that way? Why do I do this? And so I really went back underneath the X-ray machine to get the help that I needed. And then the next step is relationships. So you have guidance, but then the next step is relationships. And in that one, relationships is getting around the right people in the right rooms. And with like-minded people are going the same direction. So instead of being in a room with people in all different industries or all different, businesses, what I like to do is, hey, look, I had to go get around some other speakers and saying, okay, hey, what are you doing to work on, you know, your craft right now? What are you doing that's helping you to give you feedback? And so I began to do that. And then, of course, the next step is action, right? Which we've got to do something. We just can't get clear, gather information, filter information, get mentorship. We've got to go out and do something as well. So I was taking action on, what it is that I was learning as well. And then it takes us to our last phase, which is evaluation, right? Actually taking a look at what we did and starting that cycle again. And so, those are that's the 7-step framework that you can apply to anything, whether that be your marriage, whether that be sports, whether that be your business. If you take that 7-step cycle and you do that, I'm telling you, you're going to grow like you never have before.
I don't know if I should even ask you this question. From meeting your wife, she is a gem.
Hmm.
6 kids, travel for work.
Yeah.
What do you do to show your wife that you still love her? And, I'm certain that you've, through your process of, self-development and
Yeah.
reflection and journaling, that you're like, huh, I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like I'm missing the mark there. She didn't need to,
Yeah.
nudge me on the shoulder like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
John O'Leary was on a while back, and John O'Leary says, "Hey, I realized myself that I was missing the mark in a certain area." And this is,
Right.
have you had a moment like that, or does that?
Yeah, with my wife, I mean, she has been an incredible supporter of my calling. Now, she has understood and seen it and saw it before I saw it that, hey, you were put on this planet to help people and encourage people. So she's always been an extreme support. And the extreme travel didn't really start till about 2 years ago.
Okay.
What we did very early on was I made a commitment that, and again, that's why I did so much stuff locally, Dan, was because we made a commitment that I was only going to travel one time per month and I would get there and back. So very early on, I knew and I made an intentional choice. I'm going to build this business around my family, not my family around the business. And so I I guess I passed on a lot of opportunities or a lot of potential. And even today, I will still, turn down a speaking opportunity or an event, talking tens of thousands of dollars to be at a little league baseball game. Okay. But that's an intentional choice that was made. And when it comes to my wife, how do I make her feel special? Well, number one, is that, hey, she has no budget. How do I show her? She has no budget, and no, but that's just one thing. But each and every single day we communicate, every single day. I mean, so whether I'm on the road or whether I'm at home, we try to take that intentional time to just check in, see where you're at. The other thing that we do is we're highly intentional about doing date nights. This past 3 weeks have been a little sketchy because she's been in New York. I was in New York, so we're about 2 weeks off. But before that, we took a half day out. So we don't try to do a date night. Sometimes I'll just take a half day during the middle of the day and we'll go out on the boat or we'll go do something, lunch, and just hang out for a full afternoon while the kids are in school and things are going there. So we're highly intentional about making that time. And then, whatever it is that she's into that I can support, again, there's no bounds, there's no budget. I want to support her just as much as she supported me throughout these years.
Is there any one thing that you think that you do somewhat consistently or like it's a go-to move for you?
Um, no, I think the consistency is being there as a dad and building the schedule around the family and not the business. So one of the things that we do, even with my executive partner or some would call assistant, is that at the beginning of each month, she sends my wife the schedule for the month, all the big blocks of hey, he's going to be out of town on this day. He has a evening phone call this night that he has to be on for a webinar, and so that way at the beginning of each month we can talk through and plan around everything that we do. And what that does is that helps out significantly because, as guys, we'll it's like, wait a minute, I thought I told you that. And so being
Yeah.
intentional there up front in advance, that helps out a ton. But also on Sundays, we'll talk about, hey, even though that's sent out for the month, we'll talk about, hey, what's going on this week? Where are you going to be available? When do I need to pick up the kids? When do I need to drop off kids? When do I need to be at an event? And then, okay, now what do you have for work this week? All right. So putting them first, I think has been the consistent thing, but then trying my best to communicate and plan ahead with assistance, because I can't say I do it on my own, but utilizing my executive partner to help me communicate, what that schedule is. Because Dan, for me, I just execute the day. It's like I have given up my schedule to her and said, okay, I'm just working on the day. So I can't tell you what I'm doing 3 days from now, but I can tell you what I got on the agenda today.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like that consistent communication, daily
Yeah,
communication, weekly communication, that rhythm, and the longer term vision and sticking to it. Like,
yeah, oh yeah,
talking to your wife about what's important
yeah,
and making sure she knows she's a priority.
right, yeah, oh yeah,
And the way you've designed it,
right,
she is a priority.
right,
And so
correct.
you're very, very consistent with it, it sounds like.
Yeah, very much so.
So yeah, it doesn't have to be anything, fantastic. You don't have to, get fireworks once a
Right,
week and
right.
a plane to fly by and do the smoke thing. I love you,
Right,
honey, or what have
right.
you. These daily actions that we do, and it sounds silly to say that communicating your wife intentionally on a daily basis is a big deal.
It is. I think more important than anything. More important than anything.
But guys, as you're listening, when was the last time you communicated with your wife intentionally about something that matters?
Yeah. And we've been married maybe 22 years, coming up here in just about a month or so. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. That's awesome. What about guys when they're afraid to move into their faith life a little bit? I have a lot of guys that tell me, I got my toe in the water, but I'm afraid to move. I'm afraid to make another move for whatever reason.
Hmm. Well, it's real simple. Life's better on the other side of that. Yes. Uh, I just, I don't know. I don't know what to tell them that life is better on the other side of that. Yes. I mean, what is so good on the other side that that you're holding on to that you think that you're going to have to give up on the other side of faith. But I understand that because I remember that struggle, when I was teetering on faith, because I was on the other side of it. Like I didn't grow up going to church or believing in God. I mean, I went with the whole I'm a good person, to a
Hmm.
degree. And that was just good enough. And I was always kind of repelled by religion itself, if we're going here, and going that I didn't want to abide by all these rules. You can't do this, you can't do that. And in fact, I remember, filling out an application to volunteer to church one time, and it asked all these questions. do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you cohabitate? Do you do this? And I was like, I don't know anybody that does this, that do any of this stuff at the time, and I was scared that I was going to have to give up all these things, but I wasn't, at the end of the day, I wasn't giving up anything to have a greater relationship with God. What that stuff was actually doing was holding me back from the goodness that God had for me. And so instead of looking at it as, hey, I'm kind of dabbling with faith, and what are you really holding on to that's so good that your life can't go without, by wanting a greater relationship with God? And so, yeah, I don't know, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, for us on the other side, it is
Right.
so simple. It is
Yeah.
so simple. Life is so much better with God and being with
Yeah.
Christ and reading the
Yeah.
Bible and having conversations and having other believers around. And
Yeah.
it's great when there's somebody that's not quite a believer, and you've got somebody linked up, and you give each other that look of, hey man, he's got questions.
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't even have to communicate. Like you're like, oh,
Right.
there it is, there it is. He's
Right.
seeking, he's looking,
Right. And we're
he's
all, and everybody's looking, and that really is, for me, the only answer. I mean, because at the end of the day, none of the stuff is going to fulfill you. None of the, accolades will fulfill you. They never turn out to be what you think that they are. And, at the end of the day, success is good, but once you taste significance, success never tastes the same. And significance is about the impact, the internal difference that you can make with others. And so, man, it's just so much greater when you can start living beyond yourself, and not just for yourself, just seeking out success, because it'll never fill your cup, and that's what most people are seeking initially, to fill that void of feeling like I'm not enough, or that I've you know I am somebody if I have this or if I have that, and you can get those things, and stuff is stuff. You got to maintenance the stuff breaks down, the stuff falls apart. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to stuff. I love the stuff, but it's not ever going to fill that hole in your heart. And that hole is with God. It's the only one that can fill it.
yeah, that significance part. It's like there's nothing more significant than going to heaven.
Hmm.
Nothing. And
Yep.
if you can transfer some of that to people in your life close to you, especially your family,
Yeah.
like how special is that?
Yeah.
And what do you think about the husband, the guy, the dad
Yeah.
showing his love for Christ to the family? How does that impact the family, do you think? Or what have you seen?
Well, that's a big component. I've seen it go both ways, as far as kids following, spouse following. As husbands, we are the head of the household, and so the way that we go, the family goes. And so you have to be that model for your children. Like, it's not an option, for my kids to not go to church. I mean, it was hilarious that I had one of my daughter's friends that came in town and came over, and I was like, "All right, girls, I know you're going to be up late tonight, but we got church in the morning." And then her friend says, to me, "Oh no, we'll be sleeping in." I said, "Not in this house." I said, "Hey, you'll be at church on this time." And it was funny because I asked my daughter that morning. I was like, "I know she didn't want to go, but what did she say to you?" She was trying to get me to come tell you that we're not going to church. And she said, "I told her, go tell you we're not going to church."
I just heard a story similar to that just yesterday. Some coach I was talking to, and girls teams, boys teams, and
Right,
he's like, I lined them all up, and I told them this is what we're doing, and I
right.
explained the drill. I showed them the drill. I did the drill, and then I said, all right, you're first. And the girl says, I ain't doing that. She goes, I've never had that on the boys' side ever.
Right,
So I'm like amazed that one of your daughter's friends would say that to you in your
right,
house.
right. Yeah, that's a nice try. That's cute. Yeah, I'll see you in the morning.
And how cool is it that that your daughter's like, Not
Yeah,
me.
right.
That is wonderful. Yeah, that's funny when you have trained someone and worked with someone and, grown that relationship, like in your family, of course you should have that. But it's
Right.
great that your daughter that also didn't give in to peer
Right.
pressure.
Right. Well, now look now. And again, I don't want to make this sound super holy, and it's great. She's awesome. She wanted to go. Now I got another child that comes to church, and he will clean sleep through church. I mean, just slumped over, just sleep. And it is at the point you're like, well, I raised them the exact same way, but every day he comes to church, he cuddles up with himself in his little chair, and he just falls out, Dan. But I'm going, hey, and I'd rather have him sleep right here than sleeping in some unknown place. And he says that he listens better with his eyes closed.
I may have said that
Yeah,
before in
right,
certain
right. It's a
circles. That
mess, man, but
may
I
have been
love it.
me
You
trying
gotta
that
love
one.
love them where they are. Love them where they are.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes you got to look past perfect behavior. I remember one time one of my kids said, "Dad, we're kids. We're not perfect."
hmm But look, as far as to go to comparison, like yeah, he may fall asleep in church and that's fine, but one he's coming, but for me, I remember, my secretary when I was 20 years old, I was a stockbroker. My first, path of career was actually financial planning. So, I had a secretary at that time I was so far from the church and God at that time, it's like I had no desire whatsoever. And she would invite me to church every single week. I mean, she would invite me to church, Dan, and I would look her in the eye and I would ask her, "Are you guys gonna have Bud Light this week?" And she would say, "Nope, no Bud Light this week." Like that's how hard line adverse I was to not going to church. It's like I'm not coming, it's like the day your church serves Bud Light, I'll be there. That's how hard line I was with this lady.
Wow.
And eventually after drinking and getting a couple DUIs before the age of 21,
Wow.
we come to a place to where I was finally at a point to wanting to quit. And, my girlfriend at the time, my wife today, said, "Hey, I really want to go start going to church somewhere." And so I said, "Well, I don't know anything about that." And so we got out the phone book. We literally got out the phone book and started looking for churches because we didn't know what type of church to go to or, anything of that nature. And I said, "Hey, you know what? My secretary used to always invite me to this church. Let's go check this place out." And so I said all that to say this, it's this lady was inviting me time after time. The word says that it will never return void. And so those seeds of faith that we plant into people, that seed will grow. And so to see your child not coming to church or your child sleeping in church or going to church but not behaving, hey, there's a seed being planted that will not return void and there will be a harvest on it. That lady's seed of asking me every single week, despite my harsh, you know, turn downs and declines, if you look at the fruit that has yielded and the impact that has had it, from the people that I impact and the audiences that I speak to as a result of that one lady asking me each and every single week and get declined each and every single week, that word did not return void. So I'm eternally grateful for her planting that seed in me. And, the fact that I get to impact people every single day as a result of, a lady inviting me to church. Man, what a joy. What a joy every single day.
Yeah, so think that's a good word right there is, keep looking for your opportunities because they're
Yeah.
out there. I've
Yeah.
been inviting people to an event and I said, "Hey, find four non-Christians to invite." And
hmm
often I've heard, "Well, I don't even know one non-Christian."
Right.
I said, "That is so great." So we
Right.
got this whole world around us and
Right.
everybody's Christian.
Right.
Everybody you interact with every day.
Right.
And I said, "Well, I guess there is the possibility that maybe."
Right. Yeah.
I said, "Over the next week, would you, keep your eyes open and just pay extra
Right. Yeah.
attention?"
Right.
It's
Oh
been
my goodness.
surprising. They have actually found some non-Christians out
Right.
there, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. They're out there, right?
So you brought up Michael Jr. So Michael Jr., his audiobook and his book, I listened to it on audio because why
Ah,
wouldn't you want to listen to Michael
yeah.
Jr.'s voice? One of the greatest books I've ever read, listened to in all of my life. It is so fun, so funny. So I know we're here to talk about your book, but you brought him up like,
Yeah.
hey, Michael Jr., we're plugging your book now because it is
Yeah.
awesome. He has got the
Yeah.
most fantastic story and obviously just filled with tons and tons of humor. So it's really cool that you
Yeah.
connected with him.
Yeah, really incredible guy. I got a chance to meet him. He spoke at one of our events and got a chance to meet him, and he was standing behind stage after I did a delivery, and he was like, "Oh my goodness," he was like, "Chris, you got some really good comedic bones, to some of your lines and some of your cadence." He was like, "But I think I can really help you make some of these just really sizzle." He's like, "Would you be open to me helping you in that?" And I said, well, yeah. I mean, like, of course I would be open to that. And so I had the opportunity to really work with him and learn from him, and just a great, great individual. He's done a lot of events with Maxwell Leadership that we've had him do, and I mean, his heart, his passion, his humility, his the way that he thinks and just interacts with people, just truly amazing. His wife and him have a marriage conference and event that they're doing, and they're getting ready to start certification for those people. And so, for those of you out there listening, go out and check out, his marriage conference with his wife. I think it'll be a really great resource for this, for this specific audience for sure. You know.
Wow, that's cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well, we'll have him on down the road and we'll plug
Yeah,
your
there we
book
go.
from him.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on. How, anything else you want to share with the audience? Then how can they connect with your book? How can they
Yeah.
buy it? I just bought it earlier today on pre-order since it
All
doesn't
right.
come
Yeah.
out for a while quite yet.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in pre-order right now. You can get the book at drifttodrivebook.com. Drifttodrivebook.com. Of course, it's on Amazon. But if you want any of the bonuses that we got going, we can get the first two chapters of the book right now, and some of the other bonuses. I think we got a master class that we're giving you as well too. Go to drifttodrivebook.com to check that out, and you'll be able to find all the information about the book there. But Dan, thank you so much for having me, and always a honor and a privilege to be with you.
And I think you're also doing for guys that are working for larger companies or know people that work for larger companies, or if anybody's ever said, hey, do you know any of these great speakers or anybody that can talk
Yeah,
about whatever?
yeah,
Chris could be that guy for you.
yeah,
And I think if like somebody buys bulk books and everything, that you'll
yeah,
deliver kind of a keynote speech and
yeah. That's correct.
various packages and different things like that.
Yeah,
So
that's correct. So all that's available if you go to you get the pre-order, and all that'll show up on drifttodrivebook.com. So yeah, very excited about it.
excellent, excellent, excellent. Have you got any words of wisdom or maybe something a challenge that guys can do, something maybe in the next week or two that they can do to improve themselves
Yeah.
or become better dad, become better at marriage, be better maybe from drift to drive.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the easiest thing to do, Dan, is really just asking themselves a simple question. And that simple question is, what do I want? What do I want? I love the quote inside of John Maxwell's book, The 15 Laws of Growth, that says, unhappiness is not knowing what we want and killing ourselves to get it. And so, if you can get clear on what it is that you want, the overwhelm, the stagnation, the complacency, those things can go away very quickly if you get clear on what you want and then get intentional about the action that you take in order to get there. So, I hope that everyone out there does that and moves forward in the direction that they want in whatever area of life that they want to, Dan.
Excellent, excellent. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. This was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be awesome, and it was. So thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
God bless you and your family, and can't wait to see you next time you're in St. Louis.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Dan. Have a great
You,
day.
you bet. You bet. Thank you.